Welcome back into another playoff edition of Rounding Third Baseball Podcast. We got Sean Harrison and me, Nick. How we doing tonight, fellas?
Good boys.
Good. Wild week.
I mean, the whole playoff session has been wild, but we'll get to it. But first, follow us on Facebook, like our page on Facebook. You can subscribe on YouTube, all of that fun stuff. Interact with us any way possible. All right, leading off. We'll start right in the divisional series. Let's recap Padres and Dodgers first. I'm going to be completely honest here. I didn't get to watch a single pitch of that series because it was on FS1. So any game on FS1 I didn't get to see. So I didn't really get to see any of that series other than, I know Dodger shit the bed. That's all I know.
That's it. That's what happened.
Yeah, there's not much to it more than that, to be honest, Nick. Padres showed up. The Padres showed up against the Mets, and they just kept it rolling. It was Trent Grisham again had a good series. Soto had a good series. It was the big names. It was your good players, Machado. They just kept rolling what they did for those 3 games in New York. They kept it rolling. And it was awesome to see that actually Josh Hader came in and closed out the final game. Came in and got Freddie. He looked really good in that final inning there.
He's been great since the playoffs started.
Yeah.
That slider in the game was disgusting too.
And I haven't watched a ton of Padres. Obviously the Mets games I did, but this series I didn't catch too much. It was on FS1, but it was also on kind of late. A couple of the games. I was checking in here and there. Admittedly, out of the 4, it was the one that I watched the least of.
Yep. Same here.
And quite honestly, because I really didn't expect it to be much of a series. If we're being honest.
No, nobody did.
Even when the Padres tied it up at 1-1, I thought, good for them. They went and they got a game. But the Dodgers handled them. They won 15 or 13 regular season matchups? They dominated the regular season.
14-5.
I quite honestly didn't think it was going to be a problem at all. I was blown away.
Yeah, we looked at that last week, and they were 14-5. We're and like we said, it was the Padres lost almost every single matchup against the Dodgers. We're this is a 3-game sweep. Okay, moving on. And nope, guess again. So crazy.
Well, and we totally discounted that series. I totally discounted that series. That's why I feel like I know nothing about baseball anymore, because you looked at that matchup and you just went, there's no scenario where I can see San Diego beating LA. I didn't see them beating the Mets. I did not see them beating LA. And they've rolled through probably the 2 toughest National League competitors, and handled them well. And to Sean's point, there's a stat on MLB Network today showing the fact that the 7, 8, 9 hitters for the Padres are hitting 344 as a group. The rest of the teams in the playoffs, all the other players combined, are hitting 183. The 7, 8, 9 guys, Grisham was probably the most notable, have been absolutely lights out for that team. It's been the bottom of the order killing them. But the beauty of that is when 7, 8, 9 hit really well, that means hitters 1, 2, and 3 come up with guys on base. Well, and that makes the guy like Soto that much better.
Machado,
and they put those 7, 8, 9 guys put so much pressure on the Mets, so much pressure on the Dodgers. And if you look at the runs they scored in the clinching game when they made that comeback, there were no, massive hits. There were a chopper through the hole and a single up the middle. They were not out there hitting a bunch of bombs. They were just getting guys on, moving them over, getting them in. That's all they did. And they played
bat in the ball.
Beautiful baseball and absolutely deserved to win. But my God, there's no scenario I ever saw this happening.
Let's be honest though, this Padres rotation too, a lot of people forget and sleep on how good these guys are. You have, Clevenger is probably the worst of the 4. You got Darvish, you got Blake Snell, you got Joe Musgrove, and I just drew a blank. Who did I just say?
Clevenger.
Yeah.
You rotate those 4 guys, you're gonna win a bulk of those matchups. I don't care. You know what I mean? And it's about time that they've started pitching to their full potential as a group.
Well, it is. I mean, a very underrated starting staff that was very streaky this season. They could not seem to get things kind of rolling consistently. But I'll admit, I don't get a chance to see a lot of San Diego Padres games being on the East Coast, and I can't honestly say I've sat there and watched Joe Musgrove pitch an entire game. But man, he's got good stuff, and
Yeah.
and absolutely showed the Mets what he can do, showed the Dodgers what he can do. It's a better rotation they get credit for, and for us East Coast people, it was nice to actually see him up close.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Padres moving on. Let's stay in the NL and break down the Phillies and Braves series. I
This one
mean,
hurts. This one hurts me a little bit.
kind of very much the same, right? Phillies just went in and
Well,
dominated.
They just
Yeah,
beat the Braves in the submission though.
yeah, very much the same. But it was a series that we had all said would be a slugfest.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I expected the Braves to come out of it, but I didn't think the Phillies were going to lie down. Like neither one of us. What did you say, Phillies?
I did, yeah.
Good for you.
But I said
You
it in
did.
Good for you.
5.
Good for you. Yeah, I mean, you know, my big thing with the Braves, and I've said it all along, is they just similar to the Dot. They just give you professional at bats. I mean, it's not a team that's going to beat themselves. And they gave you the professional at bats, and the Phillies just beat them anyways. Like you got to take your hat off to Philadelphia. I mean, this wasn't a series where, you know, Atlanta was sloppy and looking like shit at the plate and didn't look like they had a plan. Like they looked like they had a plan. Philly didn't care. They just beat them anyways.
Yeah.
It felt like every time the Braves did something, scored a run or had a big inning,
Yeah.
the Phillies came right back with something.
Yeah.
Like they just that was the Phillies team people thought you'd see all season, and
Right.
again they
agree.
could not get things going. But boy, have they found their. I mean, they're 5-1 in the playoffs right now. They rolled
Yeah.
through St. Louis like they weren't even there.
Yep.
They really beat the Braves in a submission. I mean, and the Braves weren't great, but they weren't terrible. But the Phillies just every time the Braves did something, they had an answer for it, and they just kept coming at them.
I mean, Wheeler and Nola at the top of that rotation too are
They were so good.
filthy. Wheeler stuff, and then Nola was disgusting. And then
You know,
is it Alvarado out of the bullpen? It's
Yeah.
just
Yep.
it's
Well, and
lights out.
I think Philly managed it perfectly too. You know, with teams like Atlanta, teams like Houston, teams like San Diego, teams like LA, like those teams are so professional with
Yep.
particularly their third time through the order. You know, that's typically where you'll see really professional lineups start to get to the starters. I thought Philadelphia did such a good job of not pulling their starters too early, but also noticing like, all right, you know, we have some good guys in the pen. We haven't overused them. You know, we went through St. Louis in 2. We're in position to win this series. You know, let's lean on the strength that we have. I thought they did a nice job. I think they let their starters go the length that they needed. Some went further than others, obviously. But I thought when it was time to go to the pen, they went to the pen. It was just well done all around. It really was.
Yeah.
It was well done all around.
Yeah, Morgan says Harper comes up big. That's why you pay him the contract. I mean, Harper's got 3 bombs in the postseason already.
Yeah, and none of them are cheap.
No, they were all at big moments, like momentum swinging kind of deals where the Braves would score a couple runs, then Harper would hit a bomb, and then Harper put the stake in him when he hit that one off Jansen. That was, you could just see you could see the life just leave the Braves lineup or the field when he hit that ball off of Jansen.
Yeah, I mean Jansen though, like you can't give middle cock shots to Bryce Harper. Like that you can't do that. I mean that's gonna end up in the seat, but that ball was smoked.
It was absolutely hammered.
How about the Inside the Park by JT Realmuto? Did you see that?
Oh,
yep. I was gonna mention that. That was gonna be that is a tape you look at and you say you take the good with the bad. There's a lot more good than there is bad, but that's a bad that you get from a guy like Acuna. Like Acuna should be on his way over there. If Acuna's doing his job, and that's fine. He's a young guy. He's explosive on offense. He has all this swag and all this, which is I don't want him to lose any of that.
Right.
But he should be backing that guy up. If he's doing his job, that's a double, triple at worst.
Yeah, he's
But
watching the
likely a
play.
I agree. Yeah, he's just standing there in right field.
Standing
He
there.
didn't even move.
No, and a guy like a Mookie Betts, that kind of player is over there backing that play up and prepared to get that ball on the weird bounce.
It's also one of those things where I mean, he's a world-class baseball player.
Yep.
I think that's a world-class organization in Atlanta.
Yep.
I think that's more than anything. That's just going to be a teaching moment. I don't think you're going to
I-
see anything like that again from Acuna.
Yeah, and I
You know?
think also that's playing in Philly too, right? Because he doesn't have
Yep.
that weird angle in Atlanta.
No, right.
Atlanta's got
Still,
the flat outfield.
but-
No, I still get the premise. He's a professional. He should be backing up, but he's
But I
not
was
gonna-
just, I was more going to say like players that back up, like they do it regardless of the stadium they're in.
Well, no, I
Like
get
you
that
either
too.
you're either a guy that does that or you're a guy that doesn't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and he'll be a guy
I
from
get
now
it.
on. He'll be a guy that does.
Right,
Yeah.
and those guys in pregame are actually they're out in the outfield. They're looking at the weird caroms and the angles and all that. They're on that. But
Right.
Acuna was being a spectator and whatever. But I have to say I have not seen a catcher run like that in a long time.
Yo, he got wheels.
He can move.
He can run. Yeah.
For a catcher. He's got some speed and
Yep.
And I was when he was at third base, I expected him to be at like second. I was impressed. But the one thing too with the Phillies is that the knock on them all year was they can't catch the ball. You had all kinds of issues with Bohm over at third and Castellanos in the outfield, and you had all these defensive issues. They did not make any mistakes in the series. They caught everything hit at them. They made some. Castellanos had that great diving play. Like they played probably the best defense they've played all year. And that was always their biggest problem. And the most annoying thing for their pitching staff was that they just didn't catch the ball. And
Yeah.
they came up with every play they needed. And Bohm was
Yeah.
actually exceptional at third base.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was. Yeah, they better without him. I don't know. It makes you think.
It does make you think.
That's-
Back to the Phillies defense. So, like, I agree. Like, they didn't. Castellanos made that nice play. They didn't have to make a ton of great plays.
True.
But they just made the plays that were there for them to make.
Yep.
Right. And we talk about again to go about. I'll hammer my dead horse with Atlanta being a professional lineup. That's not a lineup you can give 4 outs to, and they didn't.
Mhm.
And they didn't. And it was take it at the best possible moment. They stepped up and they played well. I'm really interested in the NLCS. I think it's going to be. I mean, you got two teams that are riding a wave right now,
Yep.
and both teams are playing so well. And
I
that's
put
going to
up
be awesome.
a graphic today on TBS before, during the rain delay, which we'll get to in a little bit. But the teams are literally identical. Like the runs, the averages, like it's going to be a fun series to watch, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly not the kind of series we expected to see.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
All right, let's jump over to Mariners and the Astros. This one hurts a lot because I felt like the Mariners had the Astros on the hook in both the first and the second game. We'll get to game 3 in a minute.
Yep.
I think it was 3, 4, and 5 in that one game. But
Yeah.
anyways, game 1, the Mariners are up 7-3 in the 8th. Alex Bregman hits a 2-run shot to make it 7-5, and then Yordan Alvarez hit a ball to the moon in the bottom of the 9th. Dude, that ball was upper deck, just
It got out in the second
mashed.
half.
That
It
was
got out in the
crushed.
second half.
Missile.
It's easy to second guess Scott Service for going to Robbie Ray. In the moment, I didn't like it. Like I was watching it with Pat, and I'm like, I don't like going to Robbie Ray at the moment. However, he's your best pitcher on the staff. He's a strikeout guy. They needed a strikeout. He's a guy that's got the stuff that can get it done. So from that perspective, I get it. And again, we can second guess and nitpick all we want, but Robbie Ray just has to make a better pitch. He just has to make. And
Yeah, absolutely.
if you watch it again, he made the same pitch on the first pitch and he got away with it. He made a mistake on the first pitch and Alvarez was on it and fouled it back, and he tried it again. He didn't miss it twice. Like you just got to make a better pitch.
Yep.
Like we can nitpick Service all we want. What, like your best player, the one that's the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner, you just got to be better.
Yep.
I mean, it is that simple. And that ball was absolutely corked. I knew it was going to happen. I mean,
Smoked.
everyone in the stadium knew what was going to happen.
Dude, everybody in the world heard it, dude. I was
That
outside at work and I heard it go
Fork.
off. Dude, I can't, man. That was nuts. So, yeah, so Mariners end up losing game 1 there. Let's go to game 2. Mariners have another lead, and sure as shit, Yordan Alvarez does it again with an Oppo 2-run homer. I'm like, God. Like, and that's when I texted you guys. I go, when are we going to stop pitching to this guy in the playoffs? I mean, he killed the Red Sox in that series last year.
The guy is a machine in the playoffs. He just
But you
is.
The guy would be an MVP candidate this year if it wasn't for the year Judge had.
Right.
You know, I mean, like,
But that's the
man.
problem with that lineup, though. You can't. We're not talking about the Yankees in August where all they had was Judge. Like, this is a
Okay.
lineup that hits, and like you can't just give a lineup like that a free base runner every third inning.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I get pitching around him. Like, I'm with you on that. Like, pitcher, you can't just give him the 4 balls though. Like,
No.
you gotta hope he
Yeah,
gets
no.
himself out. Like because this is not. If this lineup gets a free base runner every third inning, you won't have a prayer at winning.
Yeah.
No.
You
Well,
know?
that's the hard part to that point is that, that lineup just keeps coming at you there. I mean, you
Yeah.
got Kyle Tucker hitting 5 and 6 most nights. And the guy hit 30 and 100. It's, it's not a lineup you can mess around with, and you can't get cute with them. But Alvarez, because of the age of Trout and Judge and Ohtani, gets kind of forgotten, but he might be one of, the best pure hitters in the game that most people kind of forget about because he's just quietly putting up huge numbers in Houston. And then come playoffs time, he destroys the opposing teams. And that's why with him as that anchor, I mean, you had in game 3, when they win that game, you had the top 3 guys in the lineup go over 20, and they just kept grinding it out.
Yeah. Crazy. I mean, Yordan Alvarez had like 2 or 3, like 13 total base games this year. Like, that's
he's insane.
absurd.
He's
That
insane.
is absurd.
There's no holes in that lineup.
Yeah, crazy. Then all right, let's move on to the marathon. Game 3 goes 18 innings, and Harrison said it perfectly. It was like the 11th or 12th inning, and Harrison goes, "We're just sitting here waiting for the Astros to score," because the Mariners had nothing. They had no answers for the bullpen. And sure enough, the UMaine product, Jeremy Pena, top of the 18th, takes it to dead center. And Astros win 1-0, win the series.
Yeah, the Mariners just couldn't string anything together. They couldn't, the hits they got were, I would say kind of weak. That there's not a lot of balls that were hit hard. A boatload of strikeouts, and the Astros just kept mowing them down, and it just felt like you were just waiting for a mistake to happen so Houston could score and the game would be over.
Yeah, you got no production out of Ty France. You got nothing out of Haniger. And those are 2 big guys in your lineup that you need.
I think with the way games 1 and 2 played out, and then the longer game 3 went scoreless. I just think the pressure continues to mount on Seattle. It's just it's that much more important for Ty France and for Mitch Haniger and for J-Rod. So, like, it's much more important for them to get the big hit, and the pressure just becomes too much. They're not that far away though. Seattle is not that far away. They are not that far away.
They held their own against the 800-pound gorilla, and I give them a lot of credit. Ultimately, they couldn't close, they couldn't finish them off. They let them hang around too long and lost those games because of it. But at the same time, they played well.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to game 1, they were up 7-3. They left guys on in the 5th inning. They left guys on in the 6th inning. And you're thinking, all right, not a big deal. They're up by 4. They're up by that. Those runs matter against Houston.
They do.
Different sport, but you hear Belichick talk all the time about how you have to learn how to not lose before you can learn how to win. And that's what Seattle's doing right now. Seattle's learning how to not lose. And that's an important lesson, especially in the postseason. You got to be able to, when you get ahead, you got to be able to win those games. They win game 1, it's an entirely different series. Entirely different series.
And a massive confidence builder.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%.
Oh man, imagine that, dude. Yeah, I think that's a great call, Morgan. Correa would be a great bat for them to add in the offseason. I mean, if Correa can stay on the field, he was kind of on and off the field this year quite a bit, but right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
40 games.
Aside, and Morgan's spot on with the steady bat, protect J-Rod, but even outside of that, the postseason experience leadership that just gives you in the locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, this entire team here gained a lot of experience this year in the postseason. You add Correa to that, that's scary.
Yep. And hell, they might go out and get another starter. Add a third
Well,
starter, that Robbie Ray, Louis Castillo.
they need one. They need
Yep.
one.
George Kirby pitched his ass off. George
He
Kirby
did.
had a hell of an outing game 3.
He was great. He was great. He
George,
just kind of
he did.
just ran out of gas.
George Kirby to me though is the guy that when you put him fourth, you go, oh, that's a scary starting rotation.
Right. I mean, he's a rookie this year, but yeah,
Right.
you move him
If
forward.
you can add a third guy, slide him into third, push Kirby down to fourth, then you look at that and you're like, all right, that rotation can roll.
Yeah, I agree. But so, I mean, I was pulling for the Mariners hard. That first game loss was an absolute kick right to the testicles, and then game 2 was no different really. Then game 3 was that marathon. But I mean, crazy that you take that runner off second base. How long baseball games go?
Yeah, right. Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But what's amazing too is you look at that and you got the Astros down 4. They get a couple back. They just keep chipping away. And as the Mariners, that's a big blow to start the series off with what you thought was a win and have it go away. And Sean's right. It's a different series. They win game 1, big confidence builder. Astros come out in game 2 differently. The Mariners are like, okay, we belong here. We can do this. You let that one slip away, and then you let it happen again in the second game. And so everybody's sitting there going, okay, these guys, the Astros are who we thought they were, and
we let them off the hook.
And we let them off the hook.
But I mean, you look at it's the same dynamic that San Diego and LA had, right? San Diego was able to steal game 2.
Yep.
And look at the dynamic and how that changed.
Right.
I mean, San Diego was able to win a game in LA, and it was a team that got just teabagged by them in the regular season, but it didn't matter because the postseason's new. But with Seattle, it was just same old, same old. Like we just couldn't get it done, and it wears on you. But they'll be back. I mean, that's a good, talented young team with a really good manager. Couple pieces away, but that team will be back.
They had great bullpen. If they can keep that bullpen. I mean, they were lights out, really. I mean, other than bringing in your starter to close, but yeah. All right, let's move on to the series that has not wrapped up yet. We have the Guardians and the Yankees. We're 2-2. Garrett Cole has actually showed up for a couple outings this postseason. He's been pitching pretty well. I know we've been shitting on him for not being a big game pitcher, but he's put in 2 quality starts for the Yankees this postseason. Yeah. My only question is game 3 when the Guardians walked off, right? Why wasn't Clay Holmes in there closing? Why was it some guy I've never heard of before? I mean, that's a serious, is that an Aaron Boone move? I'm just going
From what I had read, there's something in the advanced scouting and stats they liked about the matchup that was happening in that inning, and him in that spot. I don't know if I buy any of that. I think Boone made a move that he thought made sense at the time, and it absolutely did not work. But again, Cleveland, similar to the Padres, they don't quit. They keep grinding, and you look at that walk-off win, and it was, literally Gonzalez just stuck the bat out, and little shot up the middle, and they win the game. It's just these guys just continue to come at you, and they grind and they grind. They don't have a lot of firepower. They don't have a lot of guys who can go out there and hit a bunch of bombs and get a bunch of huge hits, but they just keep grinding out at bats.
That stat I think they put out last night, where it's like the Guardians have 15 hits and 13 of them are singles.
Oh yeah.
There's just 0 extra base hits. 0.
Nothing. That team has 0 power. You've got Ramirez in game 1 hit the home run. You've got Naylor hit the home run last night. They just don't hit for power, but they just continue. They will string hits together. They will steal bases. They will. They have shown they'll bunt. They will manufacture runs.
I think the turning point of last night's game, I don't know if you guys watched it, but Ramirez hit that bloop single behind third. Donaldson almost made a pretty good play on it. That was a tough play, but I hate giving that guy credit. But
Agreed.
Ramirez just took too big of a turn. He thought he could have had second, got caught in between, and then got picked off from behind.
Yeah,
That's kind of a that's a big swinging point. Josh Naylor's coming up with first and third. The hands up going deep the next inning. It's just like
it's a big one. It was a huge one for me. And I get trying to be aggressive, and it's a kind of a thing that team is. They're aggressive on the base paths, and it was credit to the Yankees. It was a nice play, right? I mean, nice relay getting the ball to first. But I'm with you, Nick, too. I think that was a major point because whether they get Naylor out or not, like those are stress pitches that are like those are just different than leading off the inning pitches, right? Like, and those add up over the course of a game, and that's what the postseason is. You just got to keep putting pressure on your opponent, and they kind of let the Yankees off the hook. And I do think it ended up coming back to bite them, but we'll see tonight. If they play tonight, I don't even know. Do we have an update on if that's going to happen?
I don't know. I'm really hoping. I'm looking forward to staying up till 3 to watch this one. I mean, I really hope they play tonight, dude. I've already had 3 coffees this afternoon. Took a nap when I got home. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
Typical day in the life of Nick Arno, huh?
Yeah.
But I think
Cleveland's got a real shot, though. I think Cleveland's got a real shot in Game 5.
Who's going for the Yanks?
Taliesin, Jameson Taillon.
Taillon, yeah. Yeah, whatever. I never pronounced his name correctly.
Double L's is a Taillon.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Taillon.
Italian. Jameson Italian.
I miss
but
Italian.
to go back to that Jose Ramirez play, I think it was a bit of a brain fart on Jose's part, but I do think in his defense a little bit, not many teams will throw behind a runner like that to make that play at first base. So I think there's part of him that thought they won't throw here anyway, so I'll see if I can't get their attention. And I think if you look at kind of the way he reacted, I think he was surprised that throw came over. I don't think he expected them to throw behind.
Yeah. I think he thought the play was going home. Like they were going to turn and look, because who was running third there? Was that Stephen Kwan?
Well, that would I mean, I'm with Jose though. Like I would have thought the same
absolutely.
thing.
Would have
totally. Been like typically. Sometimes you just tip your cap, right? The other guys get paid too. Like they're good.
Well, Aaron Hicks actually made a good. He jumped over Donaldson after he fielded the ball. And he looked towards Stephen Kwan. He pumped towards Stephen Kwan and then threw it into second. And then that's when they relayed it to first. But yeah. So, I mean, all right. Tonight, if we play, who do we got? I mean, it's our last prediction for this round. I mean,
I'll take the Indians. I'll take the Guardians.
I've gotten every prediction in this round wrong. So I guess I had Houston technically. So I'm going Yankees because I hope I'm wrong.
Let's go, Harrison. I like it. I love that. I love that pick out of you. The first time I'll ever say I love a pick for the Yankees. All right.
I know.
And I'm gonna go Guardians in 1. Here.
Guardians in 1. All right.
It's Guardians in 9.
I mean, I just I'm sorry, whoever wins this series is gonna get absolutely worked.
Dude,
the Astros are just so good.
We said that about the Dodgers. We said that about the Braves.
I know. True. It's so true. I'm kind of like wishing it that that also comes into.
Although
fruition.
I will say, of the teams in the division series that showed up like we expected them to, Houston did. Like Houston rolled.
Yeah.
And Verlander didn't. The guy that we thought that was going to go out and dominate got absolutely smoked by.
He was the worst pitcher of the round.
I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Houston didn't roll. They won 3 games, but they did not roll.
Well, right. I mean, they had to come from behind twice, and then
they did what they do. They won. Yeah, they
sure.
It wasn't always pretty, but I mean they did what they do. They won. They came out. They found ways to win
against the Braves,
and they frustrated the hell out of a team that was really giving them everything they had.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, we'll see what happens there. We are going to still do predictions now of the next round, even though Guardians and Yankees still have to play tonight / this morning. But yeah. Well, so let's just start with the one that's already determined, the NLCS. Padres, Phillies. This is kind of cool. Austin and Aaron Nola are going to face off in the playoffs.
That is cool.
So Mom and dad are happy. Someone's going to the World Series. They don't care. So I was talking to my buddy Scott about it, and he was like he's like, yeah, Nola's dealing, and I'm like, oh crap. I was like, pretty sure both Nolas are in the series, and then that's when he goes, yep, the parents are going to be happy, and I was like, yep.
Well, this is when you find out who the favorite child really was.
Right.
Because there's always a favorite child. Let's be serious.
They're gonna do that split like McCourty jersey.
Split jersey,
like two different teams. Like, yeah. Anyways, all right. Who wants to go? Padres, Phillies. Break it down. Who do you got, and how many? Remember, it's 7 games.
I know. We go 3, 5, 7. I'll start. I'm going Phillies in 6.
Phillies in 6.
I think the Phillies can outscore the Padres when they need to. I think they've got the pitching. The only thing I worry about with the Phillies is if this little hot streak they're on fades at all, that's a team that can go ice cold in a hurry. But I like the matchup. I'll take the Phillies in 6.
Go ahead, Nick. I'll go last.
I'm gonna go. I'll go Dodgers in 7.
Good call.
No, I'm gonna go
Mets in 6.
This is tough. Yeah, right. I'll go Phillies in 7. And this is why I think Darvish is gonna give that lineup a hard time, and I think Snell could with their left-handed power bats.
Agreed.
With Harper and Schwarber, I think they could have a quiet game against Snell. And then I think Musgrove could possibly give them a decent start. We'll see. But I think the Phillies lineup has been more consistent, top to bottom. Like we've said, like they haven't really struck out. They've been putting the ball in play. Gene Segura always pops into my head when that 2-run like slap one-handed single that he did with the bases loaded. I mean, that's just the stuff that the Phillies are doing right now. And I love the fact that like across the playoffs, we've seen like old school baseball come back, right? Yep. We've seen people stealing. We've seen people bunting. We're like taking a good 2-strike approach and hitting the ball the other way, slapping it through a hole. I've kind of missed seeing that. I think you said it, Harrison, that beautiful baseball, right? Like it's kind of back. The small ball is definitely back to scrape across these runs. But I mean, the way that Wheeler and Nola are dealing right now, and the Phillies bullpen, I think it will be a good series. Both teams are evenly matched, but I'm gonna go Phillies in 7.
Good pick.
I think the Phillies are. I think they're very similar teams. I know you said that there was a graphic out there that kind of had them as the exact same, down the line. I'm going to take the Padres. I'll take the Padres in 7. And I'll just say it because the Padres weren't supposed to make it out of the wild card round, and they did. They weren't supposed to make it out of the divisional round, and they did. I think it's a team that's just playing with so much confidence. Like, so much confidence. Like, they're looking, saying, we knocked off the 101-win Mets. We knocked off the billion-win Dodgers. Like, who are the Phillies? And there's no disrespect to the Phillies whatsoever. Right. But if you're in that San Diego locker room, who the fuck are they? Like, how are they going to slow you down?
You've already slayed Goliath twice.
Yeah.
Like, what are these guys?
Like, look at who you just went through.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point.
It's just such confidence. I think I'm not so sure there's that much of a difference in the pitching staff. I think with the way Josh Hader has come on for San Diego in the postseason is huge for them. He's a left-handed guy that you could even use him earlier in the game in kind of high leverage situations, which we've seen Francona do a ton. We see Alex Cora do it with the Red Sox. Using kind of that high leverage guy, even if it's in the 6th or the 7th inning. Yep. I think Hader could be that guy for them. I think it's going to be 7 really good games, but I'll take San Diego in 7 because I just think so much confidence and they shouldn't be here now. They're playing with house money. Both teams really are too. But I'll take San Diego.
I mean, that's a solid pick. It's really tough for me to pick against the Padres because I've loved them for a while, but I wonder if this is like a Ronald Acuna going away for the Braves and a Tatis going away for the Padres sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna win spite him. But
Well, I mean, we saw the epic collapse that they had in the end of the regular season. I mean, they almost gave away their chance at being in the postseason.
Yeah, they were
Right.
falling apart. We
Um,
were wondering if they were going to fall out.
Right. And they were just playing such bad baseball and just so uncharacteristically bad offensively. And I think it's a team that just has newfound life, newfound confidence, newfound, let's see what we can do with this thing. Like we've been out, we got Juan, Juan's doing his thing. Jerickson Profar's been incredible for them
Yeah.
this postseason. Trent
Yeah.
Grisham's been awesome. Will Myers is Will Myers. I mean, I think he gets overlooked a little bit. But Will Myers just does his thing. He doesn't like he's not an absolute animal. He's not the guy that I think he was the prospect when he was in Tampa Bay, like that's can't miss guy. But like he's just pretty consistent, pretty steady, gives you good at bats, strikes out a little too much for my liking, but he's
But
he fits well in that lineup.
Yeah, even the catcher position, like Jorge Alfaro was brought in
Sure.
for the offensive production, and he's not even seeing time because Austin Nola has actually
so well, yeah.
been great at bats. So
It's just a team I think is just playing so well together. They're hitting their stride. And I can't bring myself to go against them.
that's fair. Absolutely fair. All right, so this one's going to be kind of like a two-parter because it's going to be the Astros and if Guardians are Astros and Yankees. So let's start with if the Guardians win this game, we have Astros Guardians. Who's our pick?
I mean, I'm taking Houston regardless of who wins tonight or tomorrow or whenever the game's played. I'm probably taking them in 6 regardless of the opponent.
Fair.
And I know we've been pretty wrong about predictions pretty much all the way through, but I don't see either one of these teams outlasting Houston in 7 games. If it was 5 games, it'd be different, but 7-game series, I don't see either one of these teams beating Houston. They're just too good. The pitching is too good. They're too deep. They're too experienced. The manager is just so seasoned. Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
We can make fun of Dusty all we want about multiple things, but Dusty knows what he's doing on the bench. I mean, it's just he handles the bullpen well. The pitching staff is good. The lineup is disgusting. The defense is disgusting.
His management of that 18-inning game was just an absolute clinic.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Like,
yeah.
He managed the whole game until, what was it, the 12th? Like, bringing in bullpen arms, like, in the right spot. And then he's like, you know what? Like, this is the time I go to Luis Garcia. He's a starter. He's going to get me. He wasn't even going to start a game this series regardless.
Right.
So I'm going to put him out in the bullpen. He's going to come in and he's going to pitch till his arm falls off. And I mean, that guy came in and dealt, dude. He was
nasty.
Good. He was
nasty.
So, I mean, I think you're right, Sean. I mean, Dusty Baker is so seasoned. He's been there 1.5 million years.
And I'll tell you, if it's Cleveland,
he knows his shit.
If it's Cleveland, then it's probably a stalemate at manager. If it's New York, it's an absolute just
it's not even close
boat race.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, either way, Houston's not losing the managerial matchup. They're at worst, they're tying it. So, so I'll take them in 6 over whoever these two, either one of these two.
Yeah, if it's the Guardians, I'm taking Houston in 3. If it's the if it's the Yankees, I say it goes 6. But and I've not been a huge Dusty Baker fan historically. I always thought he was such a kind of hands-off manager. I felt like he was one of those guys that got way too much credit for what he did. But seeing how he managed through that series in Seattle when they were down 2 games, and they rallied back, and then the way he managed that marathon game, I was really impressed. He was far better than I can ever remember him being, and I think that team is too good. I think that team is too experienced. I think that bullpen and that starting rotation are nasty, and I don't see how either one of those teams gets through the Astros. So I'm taking the Astros. I'll take them in. I mean, if it's the Indians, I'm taking them in 5. The Yankees, I'll take them in 6. I don't see how the series gets to 7 games.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm with you guys. I think I'm right with you, Harrison. I think it's Astros in 5 if it's the Guardians. and Yankees could possibly make it 6. I mean, I could also see a scenario where the Astros, beat the Yankees in 5 as well.
They could also
I mean,
sweep either one of them. That's the danger
Yeah.
of the Astros. They just if you're gonna beat them, you're gonna earn it. They're not
Yeah.
gonna give you anything.
Well, I think
absolutely.
the problem. I think I just and again I saw the same thing with LA versus San Diego. So what do I know? But I think like Houston's what's the word I'm looking for? Houston's vulnerability already happened. Like they were vulnerable against the Mariners, and the Mariners didn't
Right.
take advantage. Like
Yep.
I just don't see a scenario in which Houston finds themselves playing poor enough baseball to be down like in those games again. They're just too good.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Right? Like Seattle had them vulnerable and they couldn't take advantage. Whoever it is, Cleveland or New York, Houston's not going to let that happen again.
No.
Like
No,
so,
I agree.
they're just too good. They're too complete.
Right. They're going to learn from that vulnerability and just not let it happen again because that's the type of team and organization they are. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we'll see how wrong our predictions are next week. Okay, moving on. We got 7th inning, which is off-season keys for the teams that have been eliminated so far. So, where do we want to start here? Let's start. Goodness gracious. Let's start in Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could we could make a whole we could make a whole show
the three
out of this.
teams. Yeah, the three
Oh, you
teams
mean
that were
the 3
eliminated
teams
from the
that are
past
gotcha.
series. Yeah.
Okay.
The
All right.
teams that were in the playoffs that got bumped.
Well, okay. Anyways, all right. So we'll start. Okay, Dodgers. What are the keys for the Dodgers then?
A new manager, and I know they just upped him, but they need a new manager. That's what they need.
1000% agree.
The roster doesn't need anything. The roster's really goddamn good. The roster's nasty. They need a new manager. They need a better manager. That's what they need.
The Yankees should fire Boone, and the Dodgers should hire him. Boom, done.
Oh yeah. Oh, so much better.
What do you think, Harrison? What do you think the key? I mean, I'm with you, Sean. I think the manager's got to go. He's terrible. He's so bad. I don't understand how they think.
And you know what? This wasn't necessary.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said Dave Roberts does whatever the front office wants, and then that's it.
I've been saying it for months.
Yep, you have. And I think that's absolutely the reason Dave Roberts is there is because he does every single thing that Magic Johnson and company wants him to do.
Yeah.
And he's literally just a puppet down there.
He's a puppet.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can put on the manager. At a certain point, the players have to play, and the Dodgers players didn't play. I fully get that. However, I think Dave Roberts, aside from a COVID shortened season, like what have they? He has been he's below 500 in the playoffs as a manager. If you take out the COVID year,
Yeah.
He's below 500 as a playoff manager if you take out the COVID year. And I'll say it for a third time if we need to clarify. That is awful.
That's pretty bad.
That is so bad.
Yeah.
So I think he's got to go. I think he's got to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I've not been a Dave Roberts fan for a long time. Love Dave Roberts. I love what he did. I love what he did as a player. I just don't think he's a very good manager. And I guess you have to say that and also say, well, how would he be if he was somewhere else where he had a little bit more free reign to do what he actually wants? I don't know, but I will say that this Dodgers team in the offseason, they got to figure out what they're going to do with Clayton Kershaw, what they're going to do with Trey Turner. They got Justin Turner, who's got a club option. They got to figure out if they're going to exercise. And then you got another guy who's been sitting on the bench in Cody Bellinger. Like they've got some weird roster changes to make in this offseason. They got some free agents they got to figure out. And they got Cody Bellinger, who's just like sucking wind on the bench, making a bunch of money. The nice thing is when you've got an unlimited payroll, you can have a guy like Bellinger sit on the bench and hit 203 or whatever the hell he hit. But they do have some potential holes they're gonna have to fix. And Trey Turner's a big one. Losing Trey Turner would be a big one for them. The rumors are they don't want to pay him. They're going to go after Bogarts or Correa.
Yeah,
who knows? Dodgers can basically do whatever the hell they want. But it's not a perfect lineup. It's not a perfect rotation, but they are solid all around. But I do think they need to change their approach, and whether that's giving Dave Roberts the reins or finding a new manager, they keep doing the same thing friggin' year after year, and they're not winning. Like, if you can win 111 regular season games and then drop 3 out of 4 in the playoffs and you're done, like, what happened? You owned this team in the regular season. You get to the playoffs and you perpetually suck. Like, why can't you get over the hump more than in that weird short year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the manager's a big. I think you start there. I think ultimately that's where it starts. I think it's a new voice, a new presence, a new skipper, if you want to call it, in the locker room, in the dugout, in the clubhouse. That's just giving these guys. There is something about Dave Roberts in the postseason that does not inspire this team.
No,
I don't know what it is, but there's something about Dave Roberts that doesn't do it. That part is very clear.
Yeah.
Aside from Max Muncy is the only one that seems to be better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season for LA.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy hits like 183 in the regular season, and then he just goes off in the postseason. He just does it every year. But aside from him, they don't seem to play motivated, hungry baseball. And to me, that's a message that comes from the manager. I could be wrong, but that's where you got to start. And then if the manager doesn't fix it, then you address, maybe not the perfect lineup and all that. But you know what, though? There's no perfect lineup in baseball. There's no perfect rotation. Like, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
I think if Trey Turner goes, and the Mariners should go all in for Turner. If they can afford it, bring him into Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Xander Bogaerts and you're looking around at Correa being a free agent, Turner being a free agent, Dansby Swanson being a free agent, I'm sitting there going, maybe this wasn't a good year for me to be a free agent, because I don't know where he fits in that pecking order, but he's certainly not 1 or 2. It's going to be an interesting offseason for shortstops again.
Yeah, well, I think a lot bigger than we thought Baez was a good shortstop.
It was a
disaster. But all right, so we all kind of agree there. Manager for the Dodgers. Let's go to the Bravos. What do they need?
Shortstop. I think that's the biggest thing they've got is shortstop. They need to figure out what happens if Swanson comes back or not. And then the other position that's a big black hole for them was left field. Eddie Rosario had a tough season. They don't really have anybody slotted there yet. They've got some guys that
Ozuna's got DUIs up the wall.
Yeah, they need to find a way just to get rid of him. But it's I honestly, if you're the Braves, the big question in the offseason is shortstop. What are we doing there? Because otherwise, that lineup is rock solid. All the young talent is locked up. You're gonna have Jansen's a free agent, but you're probably not going to bring him back anyways. If you're going to go after a bigger closer, go after a Diaz or somebody like that. But I think it's all about shortstop for them. Otherwise, everything is locked and loaded. They've got more starting pitching than they know what to do with. It's almost an embarrassment of riches in Atlanta with all the young talent they've got and all the arms they have. But shortstop's the big gap.
Yeah, I don't think they have much need. Certainly the manager's great. Can't nitpick. I think Snicker's awesome.
Yeah.
I just think they got to answer what they're going to do there. If it's Swanson, great. If it's someone else, great. But they got to answer that and figure it out. But I don't think there's a big need for them. I really don't. That team is, and they've got everyone locked up till like 2070. So
they'll be good for a while.
They'll be good.
I think a key for them is getting Albies back and healthy. That's a big one. Definitely locking up Swanson or finding somewhat, to replace him. And they've been really lacking at first base coach. I feel that could be an improvement there. They could get some improvement. But,
maybe Bat Boy too. That hasn't been a solid performance either.
Yeah. So but no, I think you guys are right again. I think it's shortstop, and then like having a healthy team, right? I mean, Acuna was out, Albies was out. I mean, those are 2 really big pieces of your lineup. Yeah, you won the World Series without Acuna, but I mean, losing Albies down the stretch, not even down the stretch. It's like he came back and then first game breaks a finger and just doesn't come back. I mean,
that poor guy hasn't been around much.
Kind of hurts, but all right. And then we'll go to. They just said they're hoping for a 9:30 start. Got word, so
that's gonna be a friggin' 1:00 finish.
Yep. How about our Seattle Mariners? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. We said kind of like a third starter. Uh,
Shortstop.
yeah, JP Crawford,
Yeah, everybody
he
needs a shortstop.
but JP
Listen,
Crawford was like he was the first half of the season, like he had a pretty decent season, but he
JP Crawford's fine. JP Crawford's more than fine. And I'm not saying like they have to get rid of who they have. But if you're telling me I could have JP Crawford or Carlos Correa,
oh, that's not even
do you know what
close.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if we're talking about what do they need to take the next step, that's what you need
Yep.
to take the next
1000%.
step.
Yeah,
Like
you
you can
slide. Yeah, you slide JP Crawford to second, boot Adam Frazier, and call it a day.
that puts you that gives you the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And definitely a third starter. I think a third starter would be huge. And it probably wouldn't necessarily matter until you get to the postseason. I think if you just, let's say, added, a premier shortstop and kept the rotation the way it is, that still gets you to the postseason. But I think a third arm, once you get to the postseason, would be huge for them. Huge.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no,
And it
it's
gives you the ability. We talk about George Kirby only being a rookie and getting only better. It gives you the ability to maybe put him in the bullpen. Maybe he's a guy that you can go to in some leverage situations and use him for some, early relief. If it's a game where you're like, hey, we're not going to give him a long leash, we can throw curbs in the pen. It gives you some flexibility in that sense. So I would say those are probably 1, 2 for me.
Yeah, I think you're both right on that. I think the only other thing I'd throw into the mix is they need an experienced bat in that lineup. They were the 28th worst team when it came to production out of their DH position. Jesse Winker was a disaster in the outfield, so they put him at DH. He didn't hit for squat pretty much all year. I honestly think that Seattle would be a great place for a guy like a JD Martinez to go for one more year, maybe an incentive base contract for a second. Get a professional hitter in there around all those young guys. Give Julio Rodriguez some protection, but also give him a mentor. And I think that would really go a long way towards shoring up that lineup, but also helping all those young guys continue to develop because they've got some pretty big holes in their lineup. DH was a big gaping hole. The outfield is inconsistent. Shortstop was at times, non-existent. You plug a couple of those, and that's a team that's going to push the Astros a lot even harder than they did this year.
So I just saw here Jesse Winker was out with a slip disc in his neck. So that's why he wasn't even on the postseason roster. He was on the IL.
He got hurt.
I'll say this about Jesse Winker. I think he's a better player than what we saw from him this year when he was healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
It took him quite honestly, it took him in almost all of the other new Seattle Mariners a little while to get going.
Sure did.
Right? Like Seattle was Jesse Winker. I would like to see them give him a little bit more time before they go. I mean, go get Judge by all means, but like before they just give up on Jesse Winker, I guess is my point. Like I wouldn't give up on him just yet. He's a better player. He's a much better hitter than what we saw from him this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of a resurgence year from him next year. And even that in itself could even take the place. And that even might, we might even look at that and say that's essentially the same as a free agent move. Just getting the real Jesse Winker back.
Yeah. I mean, I think Judge takes Jay-Z as an agent and moves to Seattle. I mean, just kind of like Robinson Cano. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Do it up.
Wouldn't be the first Yankee to go to Seattle. But, I mean, with a slip disc, we don't know. Or I didn't say slip disc. It's a disc issue in his neck. So, I mean, who knows if we could even get Jesse Winker back? You don't know, like, how serious that is. But
and the hard part too is with Winker being, Winker he was atrocious in the outfield, like just could not play the outfield to save his life. So they moved him to DH, which meant, then that means then Kelenic is getting more time in the outfield, and he's still a big question mark as to what he's going to be. So, maybe finding a veteran to help stabilize or platoon amongst those 2 or 3 guys and get them some variety in that lineup would be helpful. But I'm a huge Jesse Winker fan. I drafted him really high in our fantasy draft this year, and that's why my team was so bad because all my high picks either played terribly or were hurt. But I love him as a hitter, and he had a miserable season there, and I think that it's a lot of things. But you're playing, you got a merry-go-round with 2 or 3 guys that are questionable, you're going to need to find somebody who you can add to that mix that might bring
Sure.
some stability.
Sure.
Yeah. And then
And
we
you know,
don't.
getting Aaron Judge certainly would help too.
Yep. Do we even want to cover the Guardians or Yankees? I mean, we don't really know who's going to lose that, but I mean, we already know Yankees need a new manager, and Guardians are just young, and they need some power. That's what they need. They need some power.
They need a thumper. They need a.
And Oscar Gonzalez honestly could be that guy.
Could be.
He's a rookie. He's shown decent at bats. I mean, he does strike out a ton, but what power hitter doesn't?
Correct.
So we'll see. I mean, a couple more years under the Guardians' belt, they might be, and they can keep everybody there. They might be pretty decent.
Oh, they're already pretty decent.
Well, I know, but I mean, like, more than kind of like just sort of competitive, if that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, they're a team right now that I would never advocate against signing a power hitter, but like, this is actually a team that I don't think needs a power hitter, because the way that they play baseball, the way that they play offense is designed for a lineup that doesn't have a power hitter. They just have guys that will get on base. They stress you. Everybody hits for contact. They don't strike out a ton. They put the ball in play. Like, it's not necessarily a team that's like, oh, they're a power hit away. Power hitter's always helpful. Like, it's always helpful. You can get two guys on and put one over the fence. Like, that's always great.
Right.
But I don't know, with the way that they're designed right now, like, honestly, what they just need to grow up a little. And I know, like, that's all they really need to do. They're just young.
Yeah.
They just need to grow up.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to see them add a little experience maybe to that roster somewhere, but at the same time, I think they're going to take a lot from this postseason run. You know, even if they do go down to the Yankees, I think you're going to see a lot of maturity from them. And, you know, a lot of these guys are super young, and another year and another spring training, and, you know, who knows, you know, another off season. So this team could be scary good for a while.
And this might be what Ramirez saw when he was like, you know what, like, I'm going to stay put.
Oh,
you know,
we all thought he was
Francona's
crazy
here,
to resign.
Right? He's like, Francona's here. All these young kids are coming up, and they're good.
For sure.
We're gonna be pretty solid for the next few years here. So I'm just gonna hang tight and see, and fly by the seat of my pants and see what happens. So, I mean,
yeah. And he looks smart for doing it, and they look smart for locking him up, because he is really good at baseball. He can play baseball.
Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy. 2 dropped line drives and just turn into double plays. This it's awesome. Love it. But yeah. All right. Those are our 7th inning. So rounding third, again, I didn't put this question out, but what was our biggest surprise of the LDS? Who was the best player or best players, and who was the worst players or player of the LDS? So let's start with a biggest surprise, Harrison.
Biggest surprise was the Dodgers did not have an answer for the Padres. They didn't. Every time they got ahead, San Diego came back, and then you could just watch the Dodgers. They started scuffling and scrambling, and the Padres absolutely had them out of their element and uncomfortable. And that's a super professional team. And when you see those guys reacting like they were, and when you saw the energy in the dugout as low as it was in some of those games, that Dodgers team they're not used to losing. And when they started losing, they did not know what to do.
Yeah. Sean, biggest surprise?
Yeah, I mean, it's how do you go against that? Yeah. I was not surprised that Seattle gave Houston a run for their money. I was not surprised that Philadelphia played so well. I was a little surprised Philly won in 4. I would have thought Atlanta would have been, but I'd say my biggest surprise certainly with San Diego not just winning, but San Diego winning in 4. I mean, I don't know how you go against that. I'm not surprised that Cleveland has taken New York to 5. Like, none of the other ones are really surprising. Maybe the outcomes a little bit, but the way that they played out, not really. That one, LA, San Diego certainly was.
My biggest surprise was Game 3 of the Astros and Seattle series, that it took 18 innings for the Astros to score.
Impressive.
Honestly, like, I mean, like Mariners, I kind of get it, but I think the 18 innings for the Astros to score was kind of a surprise for me. Morgan, that's a great one. Biggest surprise was Cole actually showing up in the playoffs.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. I will, and maybe this is just me being a Cole hater, and I can't give him a compliment without shitting on him at the same time. But the one problem that Cole has is giving up the long ball, and he's facing a lineup that doesn't hit the long ball. So, like, this is actually the best lineup for a guy like Garrett Cole, even though they don't strike out a ton, and he's not going to get his 13 strikeout games. This is not a lineup that's going to hit 4 solo home runs against him. It just isn't. So it actually is like a decent matchup. But you got to give him credit. I mean, he did show up. He did pitch well. I thought he was going to break.
He did give up a homer.
But when he gave up that home run to Naylor yesterday, I really thought he was going to break down. And he didn't. Yeah. And he didn't. So you got to give him credit. But there's that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. We'll end with the best. So how about worst player/players of this round? What do you think, Sean?
Worst being like who's disappointed in?
Most disappointed. Yeah.
So I've got one. If you want to go, Sean.
Go. Yeah. If you're go for it. If you got one.
Mine was Austin Riley. He was completely MIA in that series, and for a guy that was so important to them for the entire season, Austin Riley did basically nothing. I think he had a single in those 4 games. Accounted for nothing, and Swanson was in the same boat. He also did nothing. But I think the Atlanta Braves got let down because two of their key guys to get things going just didn't manage anything.
Yeah, I'll go. The lack of the extra base hits from the Guardians and Ramirez this round has kind of struck out in some pretty big spots.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But I mean, like I said earlier, it was like 18 hits by the Guardians and 15 of them are singles. I mean, yes, like you can single a team to death, but when you scatter 15 over, what's the math there? 38 innings, like that's not very good. And Ramirez has struck out with a bit like runners on less than 2 outs 3 or 4 times this series already. I mean, yes,
but
it's arguably the reason the Guardians are where they are right now. But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of a disappointment to me. Like, he's come up in key situations and just hasn't been able to cash in.
I'll give you that. And it's not a team, and Morgan took mine. It's not necessarily a team that strikes out a ton. But if you look at what the Yankees pitching staff as a whole had done all year, like, they struck out, like, as like a staff, an overall staff. They had more strikeouts. They, like, doubled the team that was behind them. Like, they just strike out a ton of guys. In Cleveland, like, for a team that doesn't strike out a lot, they're going to have a little more against the Yankees. This is what they do. Right. They have strikeout arm after strikeout arm that comes in, and they strike you out. I'm with you though. It still doesn't make it less disappointing. Maybe it makes it a little bit more understandable, but it doesn't take away the disappointment.
Absolutely.
So I get you on that. In mine, as I said, Morgan was Verlander, but also kind of Valdez a little bit too. The top kind of 1-2, the horses there for Houston. Neither one of them were great. Valdez wasn't as bad. Valdez, I think, only gave up 2 runs, but he didn't even go 5 innings. He went like 4 1/3 or 4 2/3. He gave up 6 hits. He walked a few guys. Like, he didn't look sharp. Verlander didn't look good.
Yeah, Mr. Quality start there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was a bit kind of disappointing, I guess, if we want to say. I mean, they won the games, so I guess you can't be too disappointed. But, I think, Verlander with the Cy Young season he's having, you expect him to just go out and kind of dominate and wow you, and he certainly didn't. So I'll say that.
All right. Best player or players?
Bob Melvin. I'm not joking.
Fair.
I think San Diego does not win that series up. He was awesome. And not just his moves, not just the moves in the game. I just think he had them so ready to play. He had them ready to go to New York. He had them so ready. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was him just hyping up the fact that they lost so many against the Dodgers in the regular season. I don't know. I don't know what he did, but he was awesome. He had that team ready to go. He had them filled with confidence. He had them, all of them. Every single person on that roster was playing full of confidence and ready to roll. I think he's been awesome. I think he's a major part of why they're in the NLCS.
Yeah, I mean that's why the Padres went out and got him, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
and we said it in the
Let's
offseason.
say
Yep.
we all loved it.
Yep.
Yep,
was smart.
absolutely. I'm gonna go with Oscar Gonzalez. The
Ooh.
way he's been playing. He hit the walk-off home run in the wild card series. He hit that walk-off single up the middle the other night. He hit the go-ahead single for them in
Yep.
Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
I mean, and look, this kid's a rookie. This guy's going to be, I think, pretty good. I think he's going to be here to stay. For Morgan, I actually had Bryce in the Phillies too. I was tossing up between the two, but I ultimately went with Oscar Gonzalez as a single player. But yeah.
Yeah, as much as I hate to say it, for me, I was most impressed with Bryce Harper, and I'm not a Bryce Harper fan, and I've said that many times. I feel like, he got the big contract, and he really showed why. Every time they needed something, a big hit, he had it. He had the dagger off Jansen. He had a couple of hits late in games where they needed to turn some momentum. When they needed a hit, he came through. He looked like the guy everybody thought he was going to be all along, and drove in some really big runs for them. So for me, it was Bryce Harper, who I think really, it was kind of like a coming out party for him in the playoffs, because he was impressive.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was, I think it was Morgan last week. I don't want to put words. I think it was Morgan who picked Philly over Atlanta, said that they were rolling through St. Louis and they looked hot, and that lineup was, and he couldn't have been more right. Whoever it said, if it wasn't Morgan, then I apologize.
It was Morgan for sure.
Yeah, whoever said, I mean, it was spot on, man. I mean, that lineup is rolling, and they are feeling good, and they're fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
All right. Any playoff related stuff before we get into the kind of the feud news things I have at the end here? I mean,
No, I think we hit on it. It was a wild week.
This whole playoff session has been wild, really. I mean, 3 100-win teams are out. All the 100, other than the Astros, are out.
Yeah, man. I mean, imagine if on August 5th we said that to each other. We'd be like, "Hey, the NLCS doesn't have the Braves, the Mets, or the Dodgers."
We would have thrown you off the podcast.
You clearly took drugs. Go away.
It's shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, everybody had at least one, if not two, of those teams in the NLCS, and we're going to see none of them. Although I will say, if anybody predicted an NLCS of Philly, San Diego, it deserves whatever massive payout Vegas has given you, because there's no reason you should have picked that.
Yeah.
Right.
No reason.
Insane. I can't wait to go over our SOS picks that we had at the beginning of the season. None of our teams are even in the final.
You don't have to do
my
that.
World Series pick was Blue Jays Dodgers, and they both got smoked unceremoniously.
Yeah, we don't have to do that.
Unreal. Well, okay. Anyways.
Jeez.
All right, we're gonna head home here. A couple other things to tie up here. The Angels trainer that gave Tyler Skaggs the drugs got sentenced to 22 years in prison this year. I mean, deservedly so. I mean,
that's an awful story and an awful situation, and 22 years is certainly a lot, but what a silly thing to go to prison for, like passing out drugs to these guys. Just blows me away that it was inside the organization this was all happening.
To quote one of my friends, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, Sean knows who that's from, right?
Yeah.
Circuit Dave Ingram. Thank you so much.
Listen, it's appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's sad, and it's, a young man died, and that's awful.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah.
But yeah, I just thought, that was pretty big news. We knew that was ongoing here for a while, but the sentence was finally handed down this week.
Did anything end up coming of it for Matt Harvey, or did he just
I don't
testify and
know.
leave?
I haven't checked on that. I would say probably, I don't know. I'll look on it and get back to you. I'm not sure on that. I know he did go to trial for it, right? Or he was he was subpoenaed for that.
He was, yeah, he went in and testified. I don't think he was facing any charges. Yeah, it looks like here the only person sentenced was Eric Kay.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we already kind of explained it. Carlos Correa opted out. We have all kind of said it was a 1-year deal anyways, and the two opt-in deals were kind of
Why is the Minnesota Twins, and you've never had a lot of luck attracting big talent to Minnesota? Why would you give a guy like Correa a 3-year contract with an opt-out at the end of each season? Like, why would you do that? Are you just that desperate to get somebody to come play there that you give him an obvious 1-year contract? I just don't get why you get an opt-out at the end of year 1, end of year 2. It's silly to me.
I think
Well,
the Twins thought they were going to be better than they were. I thought the Twins thought that they were going to easily win that division. And,
But if it's the
signing
only-
him would have kept them there.
If it's the only way you can get, like, if he's not coming at all, or that's his stipulation, and if you can, in what you think, you're going to easily win the division. If you can persuade him to stay for the second year,
Yeah.
The first and in between the first and second is where you're going to draw the other big team. Then all of a sudden, his second year in Minnesota, now he's playing with a bunch of all-stars. Now he wants to stay for the third year. Like, I think that's probably the thinking. Because, like, he probably isn't, like, the only way he's going is if he can go and opt out after 1 year to reset the market.
Right.
And that's probably not a Minnesota thing. He was probably doing that wherever he went.
Yeah,
Right.
it may be why he was a free agent for as long as he was, because he was trying to play that sort of game. But it's interesting that, for a team that's always been all about long-term building and stability, and you cut this deal to bring Correa in, maybe in hopes that you have a hell of a season and he wants to stay or other people come. But I find it amazing that you'd sign such a short contract with an opt-out at the end of every season, because he's leaving. But
Right.
maybe the 1 year was worth it, and now you got to start over again. Although I'd
Yeah.
be curious if they're back in on him, if they're back in making him another offer.
I mean, you get nothing to lose. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't be.
I mean, and with the shortstop class coming out, I mean, who knows? Who knows where these guys are going to land, honestly.
I mean, who is the top shortstop in that group, in your opinion? So you got Trey Turner, Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts. Who's your number one?
I think it goes Turner, Swanson, Bogaerts,
Go ahead.
Correa.
Oh my goodness.
Correa was hurt and he didn't perform this year.
That's not what my oh my goodness is not Correa being fourth.
What is you think Turner not? All right, let me
I
see
think
yours.
Xander.
You think Xander's one?
Xander gets so overlooked. Xander is a career 3-something hitter. He is a power guy. He is a doubles guy. He is a good base runner, very good base runner, an above average defender. Like, what part of Xander Bogaerts' game needs a lot of work? Like, what part of his game is bad? None of them have bad parts of the game. What part of his game would you say is subpar?
This year his power numbers were way down.
He was hurt. And you can nitpick years. We can nitpick years all we want. I'm talking overall as a player since he's been in the league.
I didn't say I hated Xander Bogaerts.
No.
I'm just saying right now I would rank them right now with their seasons that they just had going into their free agent year. I would go Turner, Swanson, Bogaerts, Correa.
Fine, fair, I guess.
I mean, I know what you're saying. They're really, I love Bogaerts. I really do. I hope he stays in Boston.
I just think,
and
I get his power numbers are down, and I'm not. They were. I mean, the home run numbers certainly were down. He almost won the batting title, and it came out in like June that he has been playing since he's with an injury. He hasn't been 100% since 40% into the year.
Okay.
And the guy shows up every day. He's an above average defender. Is he a consistent Gold Glover? No. I'm not going to say he's the best defender of the class, but he's above average. And he shows up. He's a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, like, when we're talking about signing shortstops, like we're talking about faces of franchises. That's just what they are. Fair or not, it's just what they are.
Fair.
In the face of the franchise is not a guy you sign 1 year at a time because he had a great year. Like we're talking about somebody you want to be the face of your franchise for the next 6, 7, 8 years. And to me, out of those 4, it's Xander, and quite frankly, it's not close. I just think for that reason.
That's
I'm
fair.
I will admit that I'm biased on that part of it, but
I think going on your
You'll
argument,
admit that you're a
I would
homer?
still,
yeah, I am.
I would still, honestly, I still think I would put Turner just a slight edge above him and maybe move Bogarts up to second. Because I don't think Swanson is quite there for the face of the franchise. But Turner was in Washington. He's certainly, the bright lights weren't too bright for him in LA.
Yeah.
He put up a ridiculous season. So, I mean, I think it's 1 and 1A, whether you want to put Bogarts or Turner 1 or 1A, that's, your prerogative. But I think those are probably the top 2 in the class. I mean, and Swanson's not far behind.
No, he's not. I think Correa did himself a disservice with the year that he had. The year that he had this year did him like. I think his overall career so far speaks for itself. Like he's a really, really good player. I think the going to Minnesota for 1 year just to opt out, and then the 1 year you had was not great. I just think did himself a disservice in that respect.
It's not a good
look. He's still going to get paid. He's still going to get paid.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, it's Trey Turner, and then it's Bogarts, and then it is Correa, and then it's Swanson. I think I like Dansby Swanson. He's a grinder. I think he's highly overrated when you look at him statistically. What he gives you, he's a 250 hitter. He's, power is inconsistent. He's a 15 home run guy. Defensively, he's great. I mean, he's terrific in the field. But I think the other 3 are significantly better than him offensively. Defensively, he's very strong. But to me, it's Turner far and away is the best shortstop in the class. It's not even close. And then you got Bogarts behind him. And then it's Correa, who is a wild card because of the health. And then after that, it's Swanson. But, Dansby Swanson is a damn good shortstop, and anybody would be happy to have him. So it's, if you get Swanson, it's not like you're losing here. But I do think that Turner and Bogarts are far and away better than the other 2. And Turner is definitely number 1 for me.
Okay, it's fair. I mean, a little bit different. Morgan says it depends on where they land. I mean, absolutely. Because Turner can fit well anywhere. Bogarts can lead a lineup. Dansby needs other people around him to be a stud.
Yeah, so. No, I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I would flip personally. I mean, I've made no bones. I would flip Bogarts and Trey Turner. But if you tell me as a Red Sox fan that Bogarts has to leave and I can replace him with Trey Turner, I'm not losing sleep. So
no, I'm happy.
I'm not losing sleep on that.
No, and it's not a huge drop off. I mean, Turner hits for slightly better average. The same power, if not a click better. But a lot of that too has to do with who he's got around him too. The lineup construction's a lot different in LA, although he was raking in Washington when they weren't good too. So
yeah, we already kind of touched on it.
Nobody slides cooler than Trey Turner. Let's just say that. Style points.
Those things are ridiculous. And then we've already mentioned it. Dave Roberts is returning from the Dodgers.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think, like you said, it's just the puppet thing, but whatever.
And not only that, but like, at what point does Dave Roberts just look around and be like, I don't want to come back anymore? Like, because every year he just gets beaten up by the media and the fans. But whatever.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Before I go do this next one, do you guys have any other news around the league before we close it out?
Oh, sir.
All right. Well, next week is pretty exciting for us. We won't be here on Monday. We are planning to go live on Wednesday. And Wednesday is going to be our 1 year anniversary doing the Rounding Third Baseball podcast, which is kind of cool. I know we started in the middle of the playoffs last year. It was kind of weird, but next week is going to be our 1 year anniversary. It's crazy that it's already been a year. Yeah. It's been a blast, and this season went by so fast. Like doing this every Monday and touching baseball it's been awesome. But
we went from wondering if there was going to be a season to enjoying.
I know.
Yeah,
right. A really good one.
So yeah, so next week will be our 1 year anniversary. Kind of cool. So thank you, Morgan, for joining us tonight and chiming in. That was awesome. I love your takes here.
Always.
And everybody else that watches, like, we appreciate the support and everything. But yeah, so next week's going to be weird. I'll put out a couple messages. Pretty sure we're going to go live Wednesday night. Maybe we'll have some baseball games on at that time when we're live. It'd be kind of cool. So we'll see if the Yankees and Guardians actually start here in 5 minutes or if they push it off again. But either way, enjoy the next week and a half of baseball. We will see you guys next Wednesday, and we'll stay at 8 p.m. So next Wednesday at 8, we'll see you all there.
See ya.
All right, boys.